Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the How to Still Be a Nerd for a Living panel. My name is Wendy Buske. I am the co-founder of Nerd for a Living, and we are here today for our San Diego Comic-Con at home version of this panel that we've been doing for a few years at San Diego Comic-Con in person. And when we're there, the environment is extremely exciting, as you might imagine, and also really important for professionals to find, build relationships, sell their product, make new fans, and just in general grow their careers. Without that being available to us right now due to obvious pandemic circumstances and otherwise, we are here talking about how we've had to evolve and change and grow as people and as professionals in these industries. So I have some amazing people and professionals joining me today, and I'm going to ask that each of them introduce themselves and give you a little rundown of who they are and what they do. I will start with you, Valentine Barker.
Hi, I'm Valentine Barker, as Wendy said, and I draw cute curvy girls full of body positivity, female empowerment, and diversity. I also do a little bit of comics work here and there. Really just try to illustrate the world around me as I see it, be it inclusive, and try to put as much joy and happiness into the world as I can.
So good. Next, Robyn.
Hi, my name is Robyn Warren. I'm the founder of Geek Girl Strong, which is a wellness community that brings, I don't know why I got tripped up on my own introduction.
I was like, oh, is there a new introduction?
No. Basically, I bring fun and inclusive wellness to geeks all over, and we make sure that it's really holistic so that it includes physical activity, nutrition, and mental health.
That's awesome. Very good. Jazzlyn.
My name is Jazzlyn Stone. I'm a freelance comics marketer, and recently I've been doing a lot more hosting of online events.
Very nice. And Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris Sanchez. I'm editor-in-chief at Mad Cave Studios. We're an independent comic book publisher, and I'm in charge of all the production of every cool, fun, dope book.
Nice.
Just the fun and dope ones, though.
Just the fun and dope ones, all the boring and sad and dull ones I'm not in charge of.
Do not blame me. Well, as this kind of is evident of, we are all at home and doing San Diego Comic-Con from here. But while that is obviously a bummer just to not be a part of that event every year, it's also taken a hit at every industry that we work in. So I want to ask each of you to kind of talk through what these cancellations, whether it's San Diego Comic-Con or PAX or what have you, whatever event might have been canceled already for you, because it kind of seems like all of them have been, and for the foreseeable future will be. What has that meant for you? And let's start with either like Chris or Jazzlyn, the comics industry, kind of what's obviously been pretty rough, like what's the hits that you've seen?
I'll start. So for me, so I'm a freelance comics marketer. So like one of my clients, her book's coming out soon, before this will air, obviously, but her release date has been pushed back 5 times. And this is no one's fault, right? Like it's just how the cookie crumbles. So there's no one to be mad at, but it's just one of those things where like when the email comes down and then we have to change the tour plan essentially, right? Like we already had to change the tour plan to go from like going to comic book shops and doing signings to being like an online event, and then further had to change it like 5 times. So it's changed a lot. Also with like cons, like I go to a lot of cons, a lot of comic book artists go to a lot of cons, and that they're just not there anymore. And they're online versions, which I love and I think are great and I think can be more accessible. but there's definitely a learning curve on how to find online cons and how to get into them and how to do it. And so it's just, it feels like we all got taken into like a universe B, and we all had to very quickly figure out how this new universe works.
It's a really good way to put it. We call it the darkest timeline, but I like that better.
I think everyone knows what I mean, but you know,
and yeah, just sort of going off of that as like the person who pushes back those books, you know, and ruining everything. And yeah, it's sort of whenever COVID happened, it just the whole industry just sort of, oh yeah, we're gonna take like 3 months off, basically, and that's just how it happened. And with Diamond shutting down their production and just comic shops not being open and everything just going on, it's just we had to take a pause. The majority of the industry had to take a pause, and that's just how it happened. And especially with cons and not being able to have that face-to-face interaction with people, is a huge blow. And even losing out on Free Comic Book Day is another huge blow to the comic industry. But again, like comic book stores have been resilient and they have been versatile in, you know, doing online auctions and doing curbside pickup, and even with like books with pictures, doing personal shopping, which is very cool and fun idea. I think
very bougie.
It is. It is. It is. But it's something that you miss when you go to a comic shop and ask for recommendations.
Sure.
That's like a huge part of it.
Yeah.
So stores being open to that idea and being open to different ideas to make sure that, you know, people are still wanting content and still wanting books, and having more opportunities to do so is always a good thing.
For sure. Valentine, with you being kind of a con artist, if you will, the con scene, you know, being disrupted for you has to be pretty harsh. And
it's devastating.
That's a better word.
Yeah.
So how, like, I don't even know where to begin, because I know that like a lot of my friends are in that same position of being creators who rely on those events throughout the year. They build their yearly plans around them. Like, what have you had to do to kind of adapt and grow with it?
I've expanded the ability to order prints from me directly. Before I had like a Redbubble store and a TeePublic store, and those are fine. Like, I like not having to worry about the shipping and the printing of the thing. But also, like, on Redbubble, for instance, to make any money, I'd have to like hike up the prices of my prints, and that kind of goes against my goal of getting the joy and happiness into the world. Like, I like having my prints at an accessible price point so that people can just buy in bulk. So I've had to change my website up to allow for people to buy directly from me. But it also means I have to go to the post office once or twice a week, which, when Portland has reported that postal carriers have tested positive for COVID, and they don't tell you which post offices they work in, it gets really nerve-wracking. And at first it wasn't too bad because it was just like 1 or 2 cons were canceling, and it was like they were hits, but it was just a percentage of my income. There's a comics project that I'm working on that I got a pencils down order for, so I can't work on that. And it's just been trying to, like, jumping in on the online cons has been great, but it can't replace being in person and making that connection with a new fan. So yeah, it's just been tough. And as the year goes on, more and more cons are canceling. And even like, I'm nervous about cons for next year. I just don't know what they're going to look like.
Absolutely. It's hard to imagine right now. It really is.
Yeah.
Robyn, for what you do, you don't have hard product. You're a service-based company. Like, what have been kind of like, so much of what I've seen of you is like, you do so much in such, in groups and spaces where you get to communicate with individuals. Like, how have you had to evolve and change to accommodate this?
In every way. I guess it kind of echoes what everyone else is saying, just in a slightly different way. I was kind of just getting to the point where conventions wanted to like invest in geeky wellness and were interested in having me host different workshops and panels that were all based around either actually getting convention goers to be physically active with me in a class, all the way to me just hosting a panel talking about how some geeks go about taking care of themselves. And then everything shut down. Like, that was my next con. I was having workshops every single day and a panel one of the days, and that was for Emerald City, and then it didn't happen. And so I think everyone is just kind of getting on board with this thing of, instead of expecting for all the geeks to go to a gym, kind of bringing that experience to them in an environment they're more comfortable in, which is really big for someone who's working with people about their bodies. Because like everyone else said, seeing someone face to face, they're going to be a lot more likely to want to trust and invest in Geek Girl Strong because they can meet me and hear me speak, because there's only so much that I can convey on Instagram. Right. Especially when saying, I swear I'm not going to judge you for your body type, but we're still going to work out together. Like, I can say that so many times online, but when they finally get to experience a class with me or hear me speak about these things I'm so passionate about in person, it comes across in a totally different way than it ever could online. So I've had to move everything online because of this. I could get away with it, but ethically, I can't meet with my clients one-on-one in person, even right now, because of the physical activity that a lot of them would be doing. There would be droplets everywhere, and no one would be safe. So even though I have a private studio that I work with people out of, I actually kind of shut that down as soon as they said that gyms were shut down. I've been following the same rules and regulations as everybody else, just to keep myself and everyone else safe. I also live with a nurse in New York City, so exposing my clients to that was not an option. So all of my private clients, we've been doing Zoom sessions or just video sessions before I was like, oh, I think I need to buy a platform because I think this is going to last for a while. Yeah.
Back in the early days when we were like, it's just going to be a rough month.
It's just going to be even a month and a half maybe. And I can get away with, a free, source of video chatting and things like that. Was not the case. So everything's online. I've had to learn new teaching techniques because I can't be there in person with someone. I've had to learn new communication techniques because not all the work that I do is physical activity, but even just coaching someone and talking to them about their bodies, but on video chat instead of in person, has all been very different. And like you said, the group activities are now all online. So it's me trying to get people to set up their cameras in a way that I can see them and like give them feedback individually, but we're all in different boxes. It's been learning something new every day.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. And like, we've all had to just evolve so quickly. Like, it feels like infinity since this all started. And yet it's been 3-4 months for most of us. And this will kind of be relatable to everyone, that we've all had to just sort of become somewhat of technology experts to varying degrees in order to just do our jobs, if we can do our jobs. What, if any, honestly, of these new kind of places where you've started, practicing your like promoting your work, what has worked well so far, and what do you see any places where there's been like a little glimmer of hope, like, okay, maybe I can start using this a little bit more and this will actually get me somewhere? Anyone?
So I live in Seattle, so Emerald City Comic Con is my home con, and yeah, I feel very fortunate for that because I just live up the street from the convention center. So when everything like was happening with that initially, if I think way back to then, I remember being very worried about how artists in Artist Alley were going to recoup the costs of that one con, because back then we were like, this is just the one con that'll get canceled. So that's when I got together with some people who are much more talented and organized than I, and we started to formulate a plan to get everybody to use the ECCC Online hashtag, and then encouraging would-be shoppers, because Emerald City Comic Con is like I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's the biggest cart, like people spend the most money there, because like Seattle has a lot of like dual income, no kid households. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot of extra money to spend on Artist Alley, right? Like it's one of the better Artist Alleys, which, I mean, I don't know how Valentine feels about that, but it's a pretty big it's a pretty big money-making con, and it's like the kind of the first one of the year. It kind of starts the con season. So we got together and I mean, like created like a spreadsheet, and actually Adrian helped with that, like created like an online place for people to kind of put like a little bit about their store, so that it's called a Prime Con, I think. Convention Prime, thank you. We got like a Twitter thread going of like different resources that people could use. We really tried to promote ECCC Online, which back then wasn't associated with Emerald City. It was just like a grassroots hashtag for artists to use. And I heard, and again, like maybe I only heard the good things, but I heard a lot of people were surprised at how many orders they did get from using the ECCC Online. So that I'm fortunate in that, like, I got to witness the community come together and figure out how to create stopgaps to help artists continue to make, obviously they weren't going to make as much money as Emerald City, and a lot of people lost money ordering up prints and their booths and their signs and the travel and yada, yada, yada. But that was like the first moment where I was like, okay, maybe we can make something work. And then, I got to work with Jen Vaughn on VVSN, which she's amazing. So that was a lot of help. But that was like my first.
Sorry, I just was going to ask, can you elaborate on what VVSN is?
VVSN is Very, Very Shopping Network. And it's a online QVC style con that happens once a month. And so originally it was just like, we just invited a bunch of people who were going to be at Emerald City to like come on. And even some came in the studio and they like showed us their wares. Actually, I think both Robyn and Valentine were on the first one. Yeah. And so just to kind of like give a platform for artists who were going to be at Emerald City, and then specifically call out, like, because Artist Alley, like, you do hand selling, and that's what's so important about it, is like you get to make that, like what Valentine was saying, you get to make that connection with would-be fans and would-be customers, and you get to tell them the little anecdotes, like, oh yeah, this character is like loosely based off of this person from my past, or and that's really what makes that connection, and that's what makes that sale. And so we wanted to give a platform for artists to try to do some of that hand selling, but screen to screen. Yeah, so
directly to their living rooms. It should be so comforting to just be able to do that from your living room, but it's still so odd. But I'm hoping that people are getting more and more comfortable with it. Like, I mean, we're so used to online shopping anyway. Now it's just expanded beyond that. And yeah, just being able to communicate a little bit more about who you are and what you do. Like, Valentine, how has that kind of, avenue been for you, and kind of, are you seeing more of them pop up?
I'm seeing a lot of them pop up, actually. It's been a mixed bag. Like, it takes a lot of energy and effort to track all of them down, and then to participate, to figure out which foot to put forward. And there are some returns, so I'm not like down on it at all. But as a massive introvert, stuff like that like starts to take its toll on me after a while. Still, I jump at every opportunity I can. And I totally just lost my train of thought.
It's easy to do.
Yeah, and I mean that's the other part with quarantine. Like my brain is
Yeah.
slipping.
Oh God,
No, what I
all
was
the
going to
time.
say is with online shopping, I think people like find a thing that they like and then they bookmark it or leave it open in a tab, and they think I'll come back to this. Whereas, and you get a lot of that on the con floor too, but people will get like 20 feet away and then realize, no, I do really want that thing, and they'll come back. Or they'll like go find their friends and drag them over, and then the friends can engage with you. And you can share tweets, you can email links, but yeah, if it's just like a faceless thing on a screen, I feel people just decide to save it till later and forget or realize, no, I don't really need this thing. And with the pandemic, with so many people being out of work, money has been tight for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
But in the last couple of weeks, I have seen an uptick in sales, which is nice.
Good.
But still, you can't replace a con.
No, it absolutely can. And you're totally right. It's that like whenever you're in the moment shopping, you're a lot more likely to say, I'm talking to a person, I see something I really like, I'm gonna pick this up now because I don't know if it's gonna be there later. When you're online, you can leave it in your browser forever if you want to, and just bookmark it and come back. And it is easy to forget, which is really unfortunate. Chris, on your end, in the comics industry, that kind of thing, like in terms of sales, obviously with the Diamond issue, like that was huge with distribution, but beyond that, like what are you seeing? Are you seeing any places with local shops starting to reopen, curbside pickup like you mentioned earlier? Like what's been kind of the variance of, like, have you seen a percentage uptick that's been encouraging at all?
Oh, I mean, yeah, there's the main thing that has been encouraging through quarantine and through this is seeing creators and publishers themselves actively supporting the community and the retailers themselves, because the retailers are in their local small businesses, and seeing that support, like the creators for comics hashtag that went around, that was huge, and it brought a lot of money to retailers. Ourselves, we started a retailer fund. I know there was plenty other publishers that did a whole lot to support the retailers, and I think that was a huge thing of like inspiration, that the comics community came together, that wildly varying comics community came together and we're like, hey, like, comic shops have been around our entire lives. We, the majority of us loved comics from these comic shops, and seeing that grow and just seeing all these creators come out and help, that has been really inspiring. As far as like what retailers are doing now that they're opening up again, like curbside pickup, where, requiring masks, that whole thing of just, being as safe as possible, but still like letting in people who are, again, these are people coming in from quarantine that are looking for new stuff, are looking for things to, escape into, or things to not think about something for 30 minutes or something. Right. It's just something that like, people need entertainment and need,
yes.
in my life, I need comics to just keep sane a bit, with everything that's going on. And I think a lot of comic shops are doing that, and especially with like online auctions with like different stuff, and like I said, books with pictures of personal shopping, where you can actually you can have that, face-to-face, screen-to-screen interaction with someone and get recommendations from people who know their stock, who know their customer base, who know stuff. And I think that's a huge thing for just retailers to evolve a bit with everything that's changing, that's something that, the really good stores, do very well. And seeing how things are going and seeing how you can evolve with how the customer base is changing.
Yeah, comics concierge service.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
You started talking about kind of how people need, I don't, it's just something to uplift them, to take their mind off of it. And I mean, Robyn, this kind of speaks to you, like just take care of themselves. I loved what you were doing in terms of your partnership with New York Comic Con and Emerald City Comic Con. Can you talk a little bit about that, how that came together, and if like how that's kind of, if there's more of that to come from your perspective that you'd like to do?
So yes, I would love to. If I were asked again, I would. It's one of those situations where you go to a networking event among lots of geeky people and you just so happen to meet someone, and then years down the road, they work at, you know, convention producers or event producers. And they reached out to me and basically said, so we're not sure what's happening with the world, and we would like to be able to bring our audience different kinds of programming, kind of in line with what a lot of conventions are trying to do now, where they're like, we have all of these people here, and what I hear everyone kind of saying here is that there's this convention high where you're just kind of like, I'm gonna do it. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna do everything. I'm gonna go to everything. I'm gonna buy everything. And they just have this feeling. So it's a really great time to bring someone on board to what you're doing, whether that's selling a physical product or someone like me who's like, come join this community where we're trying to take care of ourselves. And that includes reading your comic books and gaining inspiration from them and wanting to take care of your brain so that we can do the rest of it, because that's the foundation of taking care of yourself. So I was able to do some live streams on the Instagram of New York Comic Con and Emerald City Comic Con for a few weeks, where just once a week for 20 minutes, we did all at home workouts. One of them was completely in a chair, so that people of different abilities could join in, or if someone were at work in a different time zone, at work meaning at home on their computer, because this was even earlier on when we were in phase nothing.
Phase WTF.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I was able to do different things so that someone who was still sitting in a chair at their laptop can join in, or they can just kind of take note of what we were doing, different stretches for people who are sitting all day, or different strength movements to do in your seat while you're working so you can take a little break. And all of that has been a lot of fun. And I was recently asked to do something very similar for a public library in a whole other state from me. So when talking about the things that are kind of okay about this is reaching people who I might not have reached out to previously, just because a lot of what I do is based locally in New York City. So it has pushed me to have to figure out ways to make sure that people that I was seeing at these conventions and would kind of see once a year and then go away and then come back and they would be excited, are now included more year round. So then the challenge is going to be like how to find a way to continually add those kinds of things to what I'm already doing, even when everything starts to open back up. So maybe I'm not doing everything that I'm doing right now, but find what really works and kind of hold on to at least a little bit of that.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that's crossed my mind a lot, is how much when, you know, whatever our new normal looks like, when we can kind of collectively go out again more, how much does what we're doing now kind of sustain versus go back to some version of what we had before? Obviously, I know I can't wait to be in a crowd again, which is not everybody's cup of tea, but I like cons. So obviously I must not be bothered by crowds. But there's an energy there that I deeply miss all the time. But at the same time, we have all kind of shown, okay, working remotely isn't bad. And I think a lot of industries are seeing like, oh, remote teams, who knew? I could work with someone in Seattle and I can work with someone in New York because I'm doing that right now. It's like, it's not a big deal. And we've treated it like for years and years and years that it is this like, okay, but if you're not a butt in a seat, you're not really working. So I'm hoping that that part of it continues to grow and show people like teams don't have to necessarily physically be together to be effective and great at what they do. But on the flip side, I also know that like we need human contact and to engage with each other. So to kind of swing this kind of a little more personal, like how are you guys, I don't know, coping? Like what are you doing to kind of continue to be productive and creative when it's not just, oh, the pandemic is happening, but also, you know, the world feels like it's collapsing and on fire most of the time. So it's how do you stay, you know, I don't know, focused at all? Because I know I struggle with it daily.
Sometimes I give up, honestly. Like there are some days where I'm like, I got this list, and another day that list worked, and then the next day my brain's like, not today. And I just give up. I did it yesterday before I had an event. I was like, I can do all of these things and then have like an hour to relax before this virtual dance party that I'm hosting. And I gave up like 5 hours before the party. I was just like, none of this is happening today. And it's just kind of having the kindness that you would give someone else who you know is going through a really hard time to just say like, you know what, can those things wait? And if it's not something that needs to be done right now, can you do that at another time? And I've found personally, and then also in my work as a health coach and a health educator, that giving people the permission to sometimes, one, say no to yourself, and two, just be like, it's not happening today. And I actually gave it my best. Like today, this was my best. On another day, I might be able to give more, but this is what I've got today, if I'm being honest, and leave it at that.
Just kind of take that clip.
I've done basically the same kind of thing. I've started to realize how much cons are good for my mental health, and not having that. I've got a wife, and I can't like help take care of her if I'm not taking care of myself. Yep. So I've gotten back into painting. I've gotten back into playing music. And like Robyn was saying, some days I can get through a bunch of stuff, and some days it's just sitting on the couch reading comics or watching my wife play video games. And that's all. And I've learned to be okay with that and not be too judgmental about myself.
That's really healthy. And it takes a lot to get to that point. It really does. So it's good advice.
Yeah, it definitely was. I remember early on, I already say early, you know, in sort of quarantine, well, with my job, it never stopped. So all of my projects are still going. I even added some on somehow. It's crazy. But so early on, it was never like, I never had time to like, it was always like, oh, I have this thing here. And especially with comics, like and being an editor, someone is always, either you're waiting on someone or someone is always waiting on you. And I never really liked being the person people waited on. So I always be like, okay, here's the thing that I need to do here. Here's the thing I need to do here. Here's the thing I need to do. And there was no breaks in there. I realized not a great model when there's like no set time that you have to be off. It's sort of like, oh yeah, I'll just work until I need to get this done. And then you realize it's like 2 a.m. You're like, oh man, that's rough. Maybe I should take care of myself. And it was definitely a point when you have to realize that, oh yeah, like if I'm not taking care of myself, this script is not gonna be my best one, or the way I'm checking this, I'm gonna miss more stuff because I'm not taking care of myself. And it's always, and it's that balance of like taking stock and being like, hey, maybe you should get some sleep, or maybe this thing can wait. This, you're obviously, this person's already working on other stuff. You can wait on this and not have to like work it right on this minute. And it's balancing that out. Also, I think Jazzlyn and I are part of a group chat of like other cool people in comics and adjacent. And that has been very nice to just be like every day there's a group chat, and just talking to people and being like, hey, this is where we can talk about stuff and, decompress and have that human interaction that you would get, just out in your everyday life. And that's always nice.
Yeah, it's like having a co-working office space, but it's online. So.
Yeah.
But every bit helps. I mean, just any element of normalcy and connection that you can find amongst the chaos is going to help. But Chris, I've hit the same point you have, where it's like I forget what time it is. It'll start getting dark and I'm sitting at my laptop and it's black, and my husband will come in and turn on the light and be like, are you you don't have to do this, right? But I just, time has no meaning. So that makes it really easy to not, try to parse out time to take care of yourself, to sleep, to rest, and to kind of allow yourself to say, okay, these are abnormal circumstances and it's traumatic. So you're also kind of on top of trying to just learn and evolve and grow and continue to work. You're also like, how do I process all of this all the time?
So there are a lot of analogies for the whole taking care of yourself, the like put your oxygen mask on first before the person next to you, the fill your cup up first before offering someone else water. The spoons analogy is a really popular one. How many spoons do you have in comparison to how many you're giving someone else? And the one that we use at Geek Girl Strong a lot are magic points, like in an RPG or a game. So throughout the game, you can build up these magic points, but you need to do things for yourself to build up your character so that you can put magic upon the world around you. But if you don't rest, you're just going to have an exhaustion point, and you're not going to be able to bring magic to the world if you have no magic points yourself. So you need to take a moment, build up your magic points, build up your HP, your XP, and then you can offer more to everyone else around you and to your work. I've had to admit to myself a lot of times, if I'm not taking care of myself and I'm working with people, they're gonna know that I'm tired, hungry, irritated, all of those other things, and I'm not gonna be bringing my best to them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I've decided to take on less clients because I don't want to do my job poorly, especially because that affects their income, and I don't want to affect anyone's income. But I also know that I am not at my full capacity because I am like constantly dealing with trauma brain in the background. And so I've decided to take on less clients, which is obviously not great for money, but it's just it's what I have to do right now in order to keep up, to keep hitting my gold standard of what I want to deliver to people and continue to survive and not just, I don't know, burst into flame. That's what I've had to do. And then also, like, I go for walks every morning. I know, so I was working from home before this. The difference now is that my boyfriend also works from home in our, this is basically our apartment. And before this, I would start every morning by going for like an hour walk just to like commute to work so that I could get into brain space or into like work mode. That way I wasn't just like rolling out of bed and getting onto my laptop. But then when quarantine happened, I stopped doing that. And part like, obviously, like everyone was told to stay home. But then when it was like, okay, well, you can go do like exercise, you just can't, you can walk, but you can't be with people and you have to wear a mask and stuff. I was still too scared to do that. And that was something that after talking to my therapist, that I realized, like, I wasn't, like, there's a time to be brave, and you have to figure out if the fear is because, like, I don't know, if you have to figure out like why you're afraid of something. And I realized that I was not walking because I was just afraid of germs, right? Like I was afraid of getting sick because I have bad lungs. So, it's bad if I get sick. It's bad if anyone gets sick, but it's, I'll be down for a little bit longer than, maybe someone else. Anyway, so it's realizing, giving myself some grace, like I have this problem. I don't know if anyone else is having this, where like I'll be answering an email and then just like an hour will go by and I'm still writing that email and I'm like, what just happened? Like,
yeah.
where did that hour go? Like,
I have
what?
had lost time like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's...
Can't tell you where it went.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, where does it go?
It's like that sock in the dryer. Mm.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, I'm glad I'm not the only one, because that was the one
Yeah.
where I was like, hey guys, anybody else losing entire chunks of time?
Absolutely.
Good.
Very, very much. Well, since we're all talking about the things that, you know, are helping us through this, I want to kind of close out by talking about just something, I don't know, a light at the end of the tunnel a little bit. What is something that you are looking forward to the next time you get to go to a convention? And like, is that something you think about fairly often? Like just a little glimmer of hope.
Yes, I think about it
I
a
hope
lot. Like I daydream, fantasize, you know.
And then everyone takes a shot and goes,
I have a Pinterest board.
You have a pin.
When I can go to cons again, what I'll wear.
The next con.
I've definitely purchased some clothing. Like, this is going to be great at a convention one day.
I might be wearing one of them. Yeah, I'm excited to hug people. I am very excited to hug people. And I am so excited to walk around Artist Alley and meet new artists and hear all their anecdotes about their work. That's what I'm like most stoked for, I think.
I'm most stoked about like hearing stories from people. People often come back to my table to like share stories about like what my work has inspired them to do. Or like real quick, my favorite con story, this little black girl bought one of my prints because it looked like her. And it was her first con, and it was her first art purchase, and it made me cry. And then she came back the following year to buy something new, and she wanted to buy from me first because it had such an impact on her life. And like, it's those stories that I live for. And some people are reaching out and like emailing me and giving me stories, and those are phenomenal. I will never not getting an email like that. But like to have that face-to-face interaction again, and just so many people sharing their stories, like, oh, I just get so emotional, and I look forward to being able to do that again.
It's very similar for me because, you know, Geek Girl Strong has now grown a lot in terms of the people who are not in New York City. It hasn't grown too much here since this all started, but I am now, as a health educator, I know a lot more people in other places, and they know about us and our community now. So it's going to be really exciting to meet those people in person and hopefully be able to work with them through workshops or panels or anything in person, because you know, what was just said really struck a chord with me, not just because I can imagine being that little black girl who's like, look, that looks like me, because I've definitely done that with your artwork anyway as a woman. But also just hearing someone's story and knowing that after they've seen me speak, they're comfortable enough to share a bit of their story with me in terms of their health and their body and their family's bodies. We get into all sorts of things sometimes. I really look forward to helping people find movement that works for them, no matter what they think they're capable of, and talking about food and snacks, what to bring to a convention. All of those things are like my other geeky things. There are anime, video games, comic books. Then it's like, Robyn, what should I bring as a snack to a convention? So I really look forward to all the food and all the people and being able to work with everybody that I've now met digitally in person.
Yeah, there's a lot of that like throughout this whole thing, I've made a lot of more friends than I would have. There's a lot of friends that I have now that I was like, oh wow, I'm talking to people way more now than I was like when everything was normal. It's very weird how that happens. So I'm really excited to finally go to a concert and meet people who I've been talking to for now like 3 months now or something, that I think I know pretty well and I call friends, but I have never been in the same room with them. I think that's a really cool thing. Also, like this past couple months, it's also been really cool for us. My cave, we've announced a lot of really cool, fun projects. Like Jazz and she actually helped me out with like a live stream that we did. That was super cool and popular, and people liked it and people saw it. And having,
I saw it. I liked it. It was great.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was pretty. It was like 99% Jazz. I helped.
Showcase.
Yeah, I helped a little bit. And in there we had like announcements for stuff that we've had stuff that was supposed to come out already, but since COVID it had to like be released. But there's stuff there that is huge steps for us as a company and huge steps. And I think they're amazing stories that are super fun and something that like they're stories that I would want to read as a person who loves comics. And that's something I'm super excited to get into people's hands and see their excitement as well as I tell them about, like, hey, here's this really cool crime story. Hey, here's this really cool story about mutant punks. And it's just these, this sort of seeing that passion translate on the page and then see that passion translate to a person picking up a comic is my favorite thing.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm super looking forward to at the next con.
Just imagine so much slow motion hugging, like people just running towards each other. Open arms.
Like a koala.
That's my dream. Well, thank you all so much for doing this panel with me today. Please, I want to ask before we go for each of you to talk about where people can find you. I know that there'll be links and other things and available, but please tell everyone where they can come and buy and communicate and find you. Valentine, why don't you go first?
Valentine Barker again. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at chalkyheart or at valentinebarker.com.
Awesome. Robyn?
Again, my name is Robyn Warren, and I'm the health educator and coach behind the wellness community, Geek Girl Strong. You can find us at Geek Girl Strong everywhere, but mostly on Instagram, geekgirlstrong.com, geekgirlstrong.com patreon.com/geekgirlstrong is our kind of big online community now that's really been able to grow throughout COVID. And also, I'm recently the host of the Healthy Geek Academy podcast. So you can find us at at Healthy Geek Pod everywhere.
Nice. Jazzlyn?
Jazzlyn Stone. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Jazzlyn Stone and online at jazzlynstone.com.
You're getting really good at that host voice. I like it.
I've been practicing in the shower. So.
Great.
Chris?
Yeah, Chris Sanchez again. You can find me at Twitter at @WhyTheLastChris, but also at Matt Cave Studios. Just everywhere it's Matt Cave Studios. We do a lot of cool comic stuff, and we think we have a comic for everyone, and they're fun.
We got comics. They're fun.
We got comics. They're fun. I'm very you can see why I am no longer the social media manager because I just talk in vague terms.
Oof, honesty at the end there.
I like it. Well, and I am Wendy Buske. I am at nerdforliving.com and co-founded the Fictitious podcast. So if you're interested in published fantasy and sci-fi interviews with authors, please check that out. And otherwise, I hope everybody stays safe and continues to just wait it out as much as we can and take care of yourselves. And I hope to see you at the next convention.
Yeah.
Send it for 2021.
Woo.